naturally, just given history and everything that's happened and how it's kind of fallen into place, Black women are prioritized in our society. Like we're literally raising the children, we are rearing the homes, we're literally the head. And I think that when they talk about just going back to what I was talking about earlier with slavery and how men were, Black men, power was sort of taken from them, and then different periods in history, power again has been taken from them. It's just given them like a period. It's given not all of our men, but it's given a good portion of our men, especially the ones who are now locked up or going through whatever experiences where they've felt powerless. And then at that point just have kind of given up and don't even want to try. And I think that we need to create a space for them to have a role. So I think that we need to be intentional, because I know that as Black women, we're very proud of the things that we've accomplished. And I think that we need to be more mindful in some senses where we can kind of take a step back and say, you know what, we're doing amazing things in the community, just as a whole, but let's not forget that we have partners, right? We have partners in this. We have the opportunity to have partners in this. Regardless, like Black men are not our enemy, and we need to make space for them, and we need to acknowledge them, like where they are and what they've done and how they can contribute. So I think that that's what's honestly going to get the ones who have not stepped up to feel comfortable stepping up. I think, and I don't necessarily agree with this fully, but they were talking about the idea of they did a study, and I'm forgetting, this was the one from the 90s I was referring to before, where they were saying that a lot of crime was kind of tied back to the fact that it was Black men's way of taking back power, right? Like the idea of, and again, I'm not saying I agree with this, but they were saying the idea of like, back when crime was high and all these things, these issues were happening, like that was their way of saying like, no, like we're bucking the system, right? Like it was their way of having some sort of stability, some sort of thing that they had control over, right? And then it just feeds into stereotypes about what Black men are and what they are doing and all of these other things. I think that we need to create a role for them for that reason. Like we need to give them a reason to feel powerful again. And I think that we can play our part as Black women, but I think that at that same time, the Black men need to not take advantage of that and actually, help contribute in that sense on their end.
So there's something you said that I wasn't necessarily feeling. I feel like as a Black man, and not just speaking from my position, I don't think that Black men feel like there is no role for us. Like, so you were saying that we need to create a role for, no, it's not even about creating a role for us. There is space for us. If there wasn't space for us, then there wouldn't be so many single women talking about finding a man. But
what are they asking for?
We're
talking about space in terms of like something that they need, like we need from you. Not just the idea of having a man, but like, what are you contributing? And we're not just talking, go ahead, continue. Yeah,
I'm not, once again, this is why I wanted to start off with saying thorough is important. Because before we even start, because then when we start about, well, what do we need from you? That's step 2 and 3 and 4. Step one is, if you're single and you're saying like, we know that not all, many single Black women are looking for a single Black man that's able to be a companion and a partner to them. That need means that there is a clear space and a role. Now, if there wasn't a space, then nobody would be asking for it.
But again, like it's you asking for you, and again, I think that Black women also need to be very intentional about what they're asking for. But you looking for a man does not equate to you having a partner. Like a partner is somebody who's adding equal value to you. Your partner is your partner. And a lot of what we see, even when some of these women have men, those are not partnerships. These are men that are providing services. These are men that are giving them something or whatever, but they're not giving them a partnership. They're not contributing to the home, or they're not taking care of the kids, or whatever the case may be. So it's not a partnership. What we should be asking for, going back to what you were saying, if we were being smart and intentional about it, is we would say we're looking for partners, not just somebody to procreate with or somebody to have a good time with, or whatever the case may be. We need to be very intentional about that. But I don't think that men are providing equal value. Black men, I don't think they're providing equal value when you think about that. Like, not everybody is at the same level.
I can't even see this when it goes back to, and that's why. And it's kind of interesting because I kind of felt that this is the direction that it was going to go, in the sense that, like, that's why I want to say step 1 to 5 are very important. So what I'm saying is that, like, there were a few things that you said that were interesting. The first one is should. The only person that can determine should is the person that's living that experience. What should I want, right? Now, of course, that can be controversial when we talk about the individual versus the community and the society and all that. But should. In theory, like for me, I know I want a partner because I'm extremely ambitious in life, and I want to take everything that, when it's my last breath, it will be my last breath. That's live to failure. That is my motto, right? So I need somebody that's on that same wavelength as I am. So I need a certain type of partner for that. But there might be somebody else that's not necessarily what they want. If a woman said, hey, I want a man that's just great at sex and is tolerable, and I don't care about anything else, is it saying that person is that person has any less value of partnership than the person that wants somebody that's going to contribute something different? I don't think so.
It's not saying it's not saying that, but again, going back to our original question, for a productive Black family, a productive Black community, yes, that is absolutely necessary. And having somebody that is just talking about having a companion that's good for sex, adds zero value to the Black community. There's plenty of people out there, plenty of Black men out there that are given good sex or whatever.
How the hell do you know? That's my question.
Apparently.
So you heard. So
but that's all they have to add. That's literally the only value they have, is breeding children and contributing nothing to these, like not raising the children. Now you have 7, 8 kids or whatever the case may be all over the place. And even if you are, I don't know if you should give specific examples or not, but
yeah, let's stay away from specific examples.
Yeah, but we see celebrities that have a lot of kids, and they're financially able to have these children. They can afford to pay for them and put them in good schools and do all these other things. But at the same time, they're doing just as much damage as the ones in the hood who are just breeding all these kids, not giving the moms any money, and just disappearing, and the kids are raised on their own. It's the same thing. Just because you have money doesn't make it any different, because you're not able, there's no way in hell when you have that amount of children that you're able, and they're all over the place, that you're able to see all of them equally, give them your time, and provide that sort of value in their life. There's no way. Like, anyone who has more than a certain amount of kids cannot possibly give them all the attention they need just off the strength of the fact that you have that many. So I think that when we talk about community and what's for a productive Black community, no, we need to be intentional. You can sit there and say, this is what I like, or I would love to have a man that's great at this, and that. But what value is that adding to the community?
So, and I don't necessarily disagree, right? But how you get to a place, like in math, it's like there's a reason why math teachers, they want you to show your work, right? Because the result, sometimes you might be right, but it's kind of like, hey, like the work might be shoddy. So yeah, I would agree. But I think that before we even get into that, it goes back to like this, and goes back to like the original question, right, where it's talking about a healthy and productive Black family. So now it starts saying, well, what's defined as productive, right? So does productive have to be, which I would think so, I would hope so, and we'll get into this in a second, but does productive mean productive for Black society? Or does productive mean productive for me living my best life? So these are the two things. If you start saying, hey, roles, okay, let's move beyond that point, right? Because we already spoke about, because they did ask more questions. I think we agree on the fact that traditional roles are not a necessity. Roles are a necessity, and roles are defined by the people who have dated and have looked and have identified a person that they feel that person's goals aligns with my goals, and we're gonna come together and we're gonna operate in our strengths to pursue these goals together and efficiently, and synergy is there. So the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. 1 + 1 = 3 in a productive relationship, right? That in theory. So I think we can kind of conclude that portion of it. But now when we start talking about the value of the Black relationship to the community and the value of these roles to the Black community, it's saying, okay, well, if you're asking for a partner, if there was a partner that was saying to a productive and healthy Black family, if the woman is happy, saying, hey, this man is satisfying to me. Listen, don't you get, if a woman is happy saying this man is satisfying to me, mentally, emotionally, I'm fine. He doesn't bother me much. The good outweighs the bad. And yeah, financially, it would be nice if he brought more in, but okay, fine. Like if that's what it makes them happy, if a woman were to say that, it's like, then that's their choice. I'm not going to be a person to say that that's not a healthy and productive Black family independently, but it may not be healthy and productive societally.
But that's the end goal is community. Like, and we operate, people like to say, and that's why I said I disagreed when Fontaine was saying the whole idea about that it takes a village. I don't believe that we do that in this community. She made a comment about, it's never, even when you're single, you have your family, your family helps, and it's a community, and all these other things is a village. I don't agree with that as it relates to the Black community. I feel like we are very much, you having your kind of nuclear family, you having your immediate, your mother, your like the grandparents helping out does not equate to the community piece of it. When we think of community, you think of other cultures and like the way that they blend their families, like they're multi-generations living in a home, everybody's taking care of each other. The Black experience is not that. Like, I cannot personally name a Black family that I know where it's like the mother, the grandmother, like the great grandparents live together. I can name a couple of cultures where that happens. The Black community is not one of them. So to say that like it's the whole it takes a village thing, like we have support from our immediate families, yes, but I don't think that it extends to the whole village piece in general. I don't see that happening. And I think that that's part of the whole idea of like us kind of living in silos. And when we talk about when you were talking about defining what you want and the roles that you want and the things that you want, I feel like that's part of the problem, is that we need to actually think as a community. So me saying, this is what I want, this would be great for me, I would love a guy that does this and does that and has this and offers me this. I'm not thinking as a community. And I'm not saying that it's fair that everybody should have to stop and think every time they're making a decision, think about, what does this do for the Black community? But we're so far behind that that's how we actually need to think. We actually need to sit there and say, like, when we've had this conversation when we talk about the idea of like everything, like the interracial relationships and everything kind of plays back into the idea that how is it affecting the Black community? Like I was very intentional about the fact that I want to marry a Black man. I want to have Black children. I want to I want to take my career to a certain level. I want to have these certain experiences because of how it's going to reflect to the Black community. Like, of course, I could do all of these things with other people and other experiences, all of these other things. But at the end of the day, if I actually care about the Black community and I want to see it elevated, these are sacrifices, quote unquote, that I have to take to make sure that we get there collectively. Like the idea of them seeing two professionals in careers, in good careers, having all these experiences, doing all of these things, giving back all of that stuff, like for the community, that says a lot. And I feel like that's more people as a whole within our community need to be thinking like that. Like, what can I do that will elevate the Black community and not just myself? So it's not about like, oh, my partner, what is this partner going to do for me? Like, seriously, like, I don't care about that. Like, together, collectively, what are we going to be able to contribute as a whole to the community?
Yeah. So I agree and disagree. So I agree that and not even just playing devil's advocate, I would agree that should be the goal. I think that we as a people, the reality is we don't have the luxury that we wish we had. Like we are behind globally for no fault of our own. And we
can take some fault later on.
Well,
the reason why it happened is not our fault.
Yeah,
but the actions that we take can be.
We're behind to no fault of our own. We got behind to no fault of our own. Why are we still the certain distance behind? Okay, that's up for debate. But we're behind, essentially, in a lot of ways, to no fault of our own. With that said, in my opinion, when you're from behind, you don't have the luxuries of somebody that's ahead, right? So I would agree with you in the sense that like there are a lot of things that we have to do, luxuries that we don't have in order to catch up, in order to move forward, right? So I think that's I agree. What I would say is that if there's a person, I'm big on consistency. So if there's a person that says, hey, like this, I don't think that community should be over the individual. If there's a person that says that, you're entitled to feel that way. It's your life. It's what you want to do. But at the same time, if you are subject to some of the negative things that come with it, understand that you have not been actively taking part in the solution. You can't play on both sides, right? So you can't, if you want to be a non-combatant, then be a non-combatant. But if we start getting beat down, don't be the spectator, right? Like you can't be a non-combatant and a spectator in this thing. So I agree in that sense. When it comes to the Black family, gender roles, the role of a man in the space, I think what we're moving towards is the idea of effectiveness. So I can't say that nobody has that type of family unit, or nobody's household is like that. The question would be, let's just assume that it was. Let's just assume that exists. Let's assume that Fontaine was right. Let's just assume that from her experiences and her circles. The question then becomes, is that more effective than having a a marriage relationship with a 2-parent household.
You mean the idea of having a village of people in lieu of a 2-family household, having like a support system?
Because part of what this conversation was in this episode was, it was talking about the idea of Black women, outside of gender roles or whatever it is, but like Black women wanting relationships but being unable to find relationships. And Black was alluding to the fact that the reason why Black women are unable to find relationships is because of the fact that he didn't say this exactly, but what he was alluding to was like, you want a man, but you don't want to be a wife. And that was what he was alluding to. And he was saying that Black women aren't putting the energy towards trying to find a man and trying to be a wife and trying to establish that unit. What they're putting their energy towards instead is the professional side of things. I didn't love how he stated it, but I'm just restating what he said.
I didn't disagree with him. I could understand why I could understand his perspective, but I don't necessarily obviously agree with everything that he was saying. But I think even Alex touched on it when she was saying like, there are different points when, you know, and I think this is just a woman thing in general. I don't think it's specific to Black women, where we, you know, if you're also working, you're also busy, like you're not going to have, you know, every moment of your life is not going to be like, I'm going to come home and cater to this man. You know, I'm doing just as much as you are outside of here. So to have and Carr brought this up when he was saying like, you know, it's on the man too. Like it's an equal, if you're a partnership, if you're expecting a partnership and you're expecting me to pay half and do half of this and do all of this, then I expect that at the same time that you understand that this is also half your responsibility. So if you're not going to come home and expect dinner and on a night that I'm working late, like this is the night that you're going to be like, yo, I know she's working late, I'm gonna cook. It's a partnership. Like you have to understand what you're each agreeing to when you're going into this relationship. I think the part that what he was talking about that I could resonate with is that I think that as Black women, because I have a lot of friends that are kind of in the similar position where they did place their career ahead of the idea of a relationship. You know, we met early on. Like I was 23, right? And you were 25 when we met. And that was very early. Like I was not expecting to meet somebody that early on. I was not planning to be in a relationship for that amount of time. Like I figured, oh, by 27, 28, I'll start like looking seriously and then get married and you think you're going to have kids and do all these other things after the fact. Like I didn't know how hard it would be, like if I had not found you at that time.
But look at God.
Stop.
Look at God.
Stop. I hate you.
Look at
Stop
God.
it. I cannot stand you. No, but like I think about it now, like how hard of a time it was dating in New York before that. And like just the horror that I know that my friends had after that. I can't, like the dating apps weren't even around. Like there were dating apps, but it wasn't like, there was no Tinder, there was none of that other stuff.
eHarmony, Match, Plenty of Fish or something.
Yeah, like I've never experienced.
We old.
We're very old.
We're getting there.
Like, I can't even imagine, but like we've never experienced that. And I think that like the idea of having that be my experience with like another man is just, it's kind of crazy to me, because I feel like just the idea that like some of the women that I know are like highly successful, amazing women, and they're having the hardest time. And now it's like they're getting to the point where they're up in age, they're ready to have kids, and they don't have that partner and all of these other things. And it's like we put a lot of, especially Black women, because we are at that point where now we've taken a lot of pride in the education piece. We've put a lot of emphasis on that piece of it. And we've talked about this where it's like, and not that you're doing anything to please a man. It doesn't matter what they think about it. You're doing it for you, but it doesn't hold weight It's not like you are any more desirable to a man for having a certain degree level or a certain career. Like, we care about those things as women, but the men don't care about that. So those women who are chasing that, thinking that it's going to make them a better catch, it doesn't work. And then the women who are doing it for themselves, it's like you get to this point and then you're like, I've accomplished all of this stuff. And then in the meantime, I've kind of lost time. I've taken a couple steps back because now all of the men, when I'm ready to meet somebody, they're all off the market already. And now you're at a stage where you have to wait until there's divorces or whatever the case is until you can actually get back in the game. It's just a really sticky thing. And I think as Black women, even more so because of where we are, just I think our pool of people to choose from is more limited than the other people's. It's like you have to be very conscious earlier on. And we don't have the same luxury as other people to wait until we're 30 or whatever the case to start taking it seriously, because you will literally miss out and then be stuck.
Well, so there's a few things. I'm gonna state what those things are so I don't forget them. The first thing is I think we as a people need to stop thinking about the idea of a thing and start focusing on the effectiveness of a thing. So if I forget that, hopefully you can remember that. So that's you probably won't. It's okay. But the idea versus the effectiveness. So that's one. The second thing is it's okay to set relationship as a goal. One of the things I think that is, and this has nothing to do with roles, I think it's okay for people to pursue love. I think it's okay for people to pursue relationships. And it's kind of interesting because everything in life that you want, you put that in as a goal. And it's not a passive goal. We wanted a house. It wasn't a passive goal. Like, oh, when we get a house, we'll get a house. It's going to come my way one day. We wanted a job. It's like, oh, it's not like, you know what? A job is going to come my way one day. You know, we wanted whatever it is. We want to reduce our debt. It's like, oh, the credit cards are just going to disappear, right? Like, there's no goal. I want to lose some weight. Oh, no goal in life has ever, no goal in life is met without intentionality and pursuit. But there's something like through their teens and your 20s, there's a period when it's like, you can pursue everything else in life, but don't pursue love. Like, you're still young. Don't pursue love. Don't pursue relationship. So it's like, not only is it not pursuing, because if you're not training people to pursue something, you're also not training them to be good at it, whether you're a man or a woman. So it's like, if we end up being good at school because we were always told about how to be good at school. We end up maybe being good at sports because we're always told how to be good at sports. All the things that you are good at are the things that you were told you should pursue, and you were taught how to pursue it effectively. Was that done with us, man or woman? I don't think so. As Black people, whereas in a lot of other races, I feel, and I don't know because I'm obviously not in other race, but like, I feel like that's the goal that they're open to setting, open to pursuing, open to saying, hey, if you're 25 and you get married, like, okay, check box, that's a goal. Whereas like a lot of times it's kind of looked at like, oh, like you're missing out on travel, you're missing out on this, you're missing out on that. Now maybe there's some vitality to it, but I do think that as a people, a lot of the brokenness that happens is because of the fact that at a young age, we were never trained on how to be in relationships, but anything that Black people are trained on, we succeed at. From what I've seen, like anytime they say anytime the rules are clear and it's fair, we win. But so in my mind, I'm like, maybe the rules aren't clear and fair in relationships, and that's why we haven't maybe collectively been winning. So I think that that's an important distinction to make, and I think that when we get to a certain age as well, like when you talk about some of like the older women that are single, and I think the valuable man, this goes back to the first thing, the idea of a thing versus the effectiveness of a thing. As a recruiter, as a talent acquisition professional, something, and as a student, a scholar, whatever, all these things, what I'm becoming much more interested in is breaking the idea of what individual success looks like. What I realize is there are some people who are going to be able to do what I do, which is you can sit behind a computer, you can make calls, you can send emails, you can create stuff. But there are going to be some people that's like, nah, like I like a hammer and I like to hammer nails. And that's what they do. And then there are going to be some people like I like to drive trucks, and that's okay. But I think that what happens is because a lot of those jobs are well paying, and you have a lot of men who have been told that maybe that's what their passion is, that have been told that's less than. And you have a lot of women that have been told that's less than. So you have, even right now in the middle of this pandemic, you have thousands of amazing truck driver jobs that pay really good money, that it's like, okay, like we can kind of fill that gap in a lot of ways, but we've been told that's less than. And if we had 20,000 new truck drivers that are making really good money, that can support you and treat you really well, there's a lot of professional women that would view that as less than, even if the money was there as well, because it's the idea of a thing as well, the idea of what a man should be, going back to full circle, the idea of like gender roles. So, I mean, I just went on a huge tangent, but like, I feel like those things are important. We need to stop attaching ourselves, one, to the idea of a thing. If you're a man, I think we need to stop attaching ourselves to the idea of a woman that's both, just like I said, men, maybe the man that was 200 years ago, there's the 200 years ago woman, there's the 1822 woman, and then there's the 2022 woman. Sometimes we be acting like the woman is both. It's like, no, you're the 2022 woman. Just like a man, sometimes men be trying to treat themselves like, oh, I'm the 1882 man and the 2022 man. No. You're the 2022 man. But a lot of times we get into this idea that like men are looking at women like expecting them, like, I need you to be the 1882 woman and the 2022 woman. And then women are looking at men like, oh, I need you to be the 1882 man and the 2022 man. And now you just have a bunch of people who are just constantly, ships passing in the night. And that's kind of what happens. So I think that there's a lot of brokenness there. I think we need to train young about relationships, about the idea of teamwork in general, because if you think about culturally, we're not really good at working as a team, as a culture, let alone as a partnership. So that trickles there too. So I think we need to think about teamwork, and we need to think about debunking or removing ourselves from attachment to ideas. So these are the things that I was thinking about when you were talking.
It was a good talk. I think that anytime we can go back to the idea of what does it take to elevate the community, like these are the conversations we like to have, and we agree, but we also disagree more times than not. And I think that I would love to hear what you guys think. So definitely drop your comments and let us know how you feel about the argument.
Sounds good. Well, this is the Do You Know Black Creators Kickback. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. As always, don't just leave the conversation here. Take it to your family, take it to your friends, talk about it with your kids. Just talk about it as much as you can. Keep the conversation going. That's what we're trying to do. This has been the Do You Know Black Creators Kickback, and I'm Darnell.
And I'm Alyssa.
Peace.